All right, number 10, we are graphing a square root function. The whole key to this problem is to make the part under the square root equal to values that are perfect squares. Since here we just have a plain x, this one's going to be a little bit easier. The first perfect square going to be 0, right? 0 times 0. We can do the square root of 0. We can't do the square root of a negative number. The next perfect square is 1. I can do the square root of 1. The square root of 1 is 1. My next perfect square, 2 squared is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. My next perfect square, 3 squared is 9. 3 times 3 is 9. So they're going to tell you to graph the vertex and 3 additional points by making whatever's underneath the square root equal to a perfect square. In this case, since it's a plain x, we can just use the first 4 perfect squares. So, in my table, I'm going to use 0, 1, 4, and 9. If this is 0, the square root of 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. If this is 1, the square root of 1 is 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. If this is 4, the square root of 4 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. If this is 9, the square root of 9 is 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. I can then plot my points. So 0 over up 5, 1 over up 6, 4 over, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 7, and 9 over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What happens with a square root function is it's going to have an end point, and then it's going to shoot off either to the right or to the left, depending on what we have, but in this case, we shoot off to the right. But we can't take the square root of a negative number, and so we don't have anything over here on our graph. On the next one, notice we don't have just the plain x under our square root. The x minus 1 is all under the square root. So in this case, before I can put my numbers in my table, I'm going to say that I want the x minus 1 to equal the first perfect square of 0, the x minus 1 to equal the next perfect square, which is 1, the x minus 1 to equal 2 squared, which is 4, and the x minus 1 to equal 3 squared, which is 9. So I'm using these same 4 values that I used when I had a plain x, but now I have an x minus 1 under my square root. So I'm going to solve each of these. So here I have to add 1. I get x equals 1. Here I'm going to add 1. I get x equals 2. Here I'm going to add 1, so x equals 5. Here I'm going to add 1, so x equals 10. So when I'm doing my table, I'm using 1, 2, 5, and 10 for my values, because those are the values that are going to make those nice perfect squares so I can do the square root of my numbers. So putting my first number in, 1 minus 1 is 0. The square root of 0 is 0. 2 minus 1 is 1. The square root of 1 is 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. 5 minus 1 is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. 10 minus 1 is 9. The square root of 9, 3. They all then came out to nice numbers because we figured out what they had to be to make them perfect squares before we started. So, over 1 up 0. Over 2 up 1. Over 5 up 2. And over 10 up 3. Again, it's going to start here, shoot off in this direction, and that's going to be the graph of that square root function. I'm going to fix that next one here a little bit. I see the square root got cut off. There's my ink. All right, so number 12, going to be the same kind of thing. I don't have just the plain x under the square root. I have the x plus 2 under the square root. So I'm going to say, okay, The x plus 2 we want to be 0, the first perfect square. X plus 2 is 1 squared, which is 1. X plus 2 is 2 squared, which is 4. And x plus 2 is 3 squared, which is 9. So always using those end numbers and then solving for x. So here I'm going to minus my 2. X is going to equal negative 2. Here I'm going to minus 2. X equals negative 1. Minus 2. X equals 2. Minus 2. X equals 7. So in my table of values, I'm going to use negative 2, negative 1, 2, and 7. And all of those should give me answers that come out to nice perfect squares. So negative 2 plus 2 is 0. The square root of 0, 0. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. The square root of 1, 1. 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. The square root of 9 is 3. So negative 2 is at 0. Negative 1 is at 1. Positive 2 is at 2. And positive 7 is at 3. 1, 2, 3. And so my graph looks something like that. So the whole key with square root functions is taking that part under the square root, setting them equal to our first 4 perfect squares, 0, 1, 4, and 9, solving for x so that when I plug it in, it works out nicely.